Well, howdy there, folks. How's it going today? Hope you're all doing really good. Well, I'm just out noodling around in the shop here a little bit. Thought I'd work on this archtop a little bit more. This is the one that come in, had the separation in the back, and I ended up cutting the back completely off the guitar and re-glued everything, fixed a couple braces, and now I'm getting ready to install a truss rod in the neck. Now, I believe from the information you guys have helped me with, this is more than likely an old K archtop from the 30s. It's got some faux wood grain, which is just really cool in my opinion, but this has no truss rod in it or no reinforcing whatsoever. So I am going to put a truss rod in it, and I am going to have to fix the fretboard extension. It's got a little bit of a ramp there, a ski jump if you will. So I ordered a two-way truss rod, and that's what we're going to do is start prepping to get this installed. So in reality, it's going to end up right about here, just before the body joint. Now I can't run it past here anyways because you have just the thickness of the fretboard that hangs out over the guitar. So this is 14 1/8 inches long, and I'm going to want to have it come out just past the nut slightly, and we're going to have to route a cavity in there, and I'll put a truss rod cover. We'll figure something out. But in any case, to make this playable, it's got to have a truss rod, at least in my opinion, and that's what I plan on doing with it. I just want to be able to play this guitar and not have to work on it constantly, trying to fudge the action so you can play it and all that kind of stuff. So first thing we need to do is get the fretboard off. I think what I'll do first is pull a couple frets out and drill like an 1/8 inch hole and a couple spots just for basically for indexing, so I can put something in there when we re-glue it. I'll put something in those two holes to help line everything back up. All right, well, let's get to it. Okay, so I think this neck is made out of poplar, or if you live around where I live, they call it popple. At least the woodcutters do. It's kind of a soft wood. I think the fretboard could be made of the same thing, honestly. The wood looks quite similar. It could be maple. I'm not sure. It's very light. I just wanted to add that. So you can tell they also put a faux finish on the fretboard because whoever played it, played these first position chords and wore through the finish. I think it's cool, so I'm going to definitely put this back on the guitar. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is pull a fret out here, and we'll pull one back somewhere by the heel here maybe. And we're just going to drill, a hole. I'll just kind of cross corner it. So that way when we put the fretboard back on, we can stick something like a 1/8 inch drill bit or a bamboo skewer or something that same diameter to help line us up when we re-glue it. Okay, let's get the fret out. All right, we'll get the fret pulling pliers out here. And usually I heat these up, but I may refret this neck anyway, so it really doesn't matter if I stave this one up. But this has those kind of tall, narrow frets in it. Not a huge fan, but again, if I can get away without refretting it, I may do that. But I plan on keeping this guitar actually, so refretting it's really not a big deal. And if I do that, I won't have to mess with it for many years. versus these. These are kind of soft, I can tell. They're glued in there with something, either glue or just good old-fashioned gunk from somebody's fingers, but yeah, in any case, come out pretty clean. All right, let's drill a hole in there. A little bit more, I guess. All right, we'll call that good. All right, we're going to pull one more out up by the heel here. Get that out of there, and we'll drill another hole on the opposite side of the fretboard. As I said before, that'll just help keep things lined up when we get ready to glue everything back down. Had a little piece chip out. Just save that. Not a humongous deal, but try to minimize it if I can. Okay, let's put one right here. Spin that in reverse just for a second. That'll do it. Alright, before we get going too far, I just wanted to point out what we have here is a dual action truss rod. So you got a square bar and a round bar. They just kind of shrink tube them together. Now there's different styles. Some of them have a nut just on its own, and this has the Allen bolt, if you will, inside this sleeve. So this sleeve will not turn. You stick an Allen wrench in the sleeve to turn the truss rod, and it will bend it forward bow or reverse bow, back bow, what have you. And they work really nice. Now I got this from the same people that I buy my fret wire from on eBay, bitterrootguitars.com, and they were kind enough to send the Allen wrench right in a package of its own. Okay, so that's what we're going to be installing, but for now we got to do the fun part and cut the fretboard off here. Okie doke, well, we just got a good old-fashioned clothes iron here, sitting right on the frets, and the fret wire will usually transfer enough heat through there to get the glue loosened up sometimes. Sometimes not, it won't, but it is a good idea to do this with heat. Now, I've removed fretboards on old guitars that had already started to separate some, and you know, sometimes you don't even need heat. That old high glue gets really crystallized and brittle. Sometimes you can just kind of work your way through with a palette knife, and it'll come right off. So I'm going to let this sit here for a few minutes and do its thing. Oh yeah, that's getting warm already. Not a bad idea to keep checking once in a while. Alright, so that's pretty warm. We'll see if we can get this started here. Oh boy, sometimes they'll pop right off, and other times they won't. Alright, well, I started it in there slightly. Ooh, those frets are hot. I gotta get a cloth on under my hand over here so I don't burn my hand on the fret wire. Alright, well, we've started it in there. And sometimes they'll start really hard and dry, and once you get going with them, they'll come right off pretty easy, but not always. This one definitely falls into the hard stack category. Alright, I'm going to put some more heat on. I've made it to the first fret. Boy, that's coming off some dry. I can smell like a pot roast kind of smell, so I'm guessing it's hide glue. Alright, starting to get a little progress. I'm almost to the second fret here now. I think what I'll do is leave that in there, put my iron back on, and get a little more heat. Yeah, this one's being a real bugger. Like I said, sometimes they'll come right off without heat, and sometimes they won't. Alright, I'm sticking my palette knife right on the iron here. I gotta get that hot too, because boy, they were not fooling around with the glue on this one. Good stuff, I guess, but not very fun to take apart. Alright, let's see if I can gain a little bit more with that. Boy, not a lot. Ugh. Boy, that is being some kind of stubborn. Alright, we're past the second fret, but not by a lot. Wow, I gotta put the heat to her. Okay, well, we're up to about the 5th fret now. Looks like it's gonna finally let go a little bit. Now the problem I'm having is, honestly, besides that, is getting the tools out. It's like the glue wants to harden almost immediately after you take the iron off it, so it's been a little bit of a chore to get my palette knives freed up from the underneath the fretboard here. Hurry up and wait. It's the name of the game. Oh, Lord have mercy. They must have bought that glue from the Blues Brothers. Really strong stuff. Okay, we're getting there. Sometimes it just comes down to brute strength and resilience. Sometimes the heat just doesn't really do what you think it's gonna. And you just gotta take different steps. Okay, now I gotta get rid of that piece that goes under the fretboard right there. I'm going to save that because that needs to get glued back in. Okay. So basically what happened was, this was broke when I got the guitar. The neck was just sitting in the dovetail. So that will end up getting hooked back down to the top. So just want to make sure that stays where it is. It does have the stringy look of poplar or popple. Certainly a soft wood. Okay, let's unplug the iron. Get that cooled down. I've actually even thought about making a whole new fretboard, but I don't know. I think I will refret this though. Definitely. I'm going to put those pieces off to the side. And let's see, we're about where the truss rod's going to end up. So that puts me back into the heel slightly. Remember, this is just a fretboard extension that hangs out over the body. Actually, that will end up being about right there. So I think that'll end up being just about right. So that'll be the next phase. We'll have to get set up and route a channel out here. Get everything marked out. We'll get the depths all figured out and get that routed in and put the fretboard back on. I am going to narrow the neck down a little bit. It's got a big V on the neck, and there was a bunch of dents here anyway where it had been dropped or whatever. And I'm going to take a little bit of that out of there. Now, they'd leave them pretty thick, especially with no reinforcement or no truss rod. So once we get the truss rod in there, I'm not too worried about it. So anyway, that was a pretty big step, and that was the hardest fretboard I've ever taken off. I mean, as you can hear, I was winded from doing it. And really not much of a sign of glue. Now I can see glue right here. I don't know, maybe it was some sort of a weird epoxy style glue. And there wasn't a ton of it, but boy, oh boy, I'll tell you, that thing was hooked on there. So anyway, there's that. And I am glad to get that unhooked. And like I said, I'm going to get set up here to route the truss rod in. That'll be the next move. I am quite excited to get this one back together. I think that's going to be a lot of fun just to have. It's something that I do not have. I have some F-hole guitars, but I don't have just a plain F-hole acoustic unelectrified. They have a unique tone. You know, you put some flat wounds on it, you can instantly hear like what old recordings sounded like. You know, you can hear those guitar tones instantly from these guitars, because obviously that's probably what they were using back then. Something very similar. Well, anyway, folks, thanks for watching. I gotta go take a break. I'm all out of breath and no place to go. All right, we'll see you guys real soon. Be good. Okie doke.